Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to Fantasy Premier League Game Week 21. It's team news time as we get all the latest from the press conferences from Fantasy Football Scout's editor Neale. Neale, welcome. How are you?
Not too bad, Joe. Yeah, it's a funny one today because we've got press conferences from 10 managers. And because of the nature of the split game week, with the games being spread out over like 10, 11 days, half of them haven't even had press conferences yet, but we'll round up what we know anyway.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to have half the press conferences, and then I don't know if we'll do one next week because it's fairly pointless because the deadline's already gone. So we'll just keep up to date on Fantasy Football Scout with all the details there, sort of mid-game week. It's too late, basically. If we find out Saka's injured or something like that, it's all too late. I've got to introduce myself. My name is Joe. Also, those in the live chat, if you can let us know that you can see and hear us as usual, I have no playback function of the video here. So as far as I can see, we might be just talking to ourselves. So if you can see and hear us, do let us know. Plenty of you in the live chat already, understandably. It's been a while since we've had a game week, and also this is a very long game week as well. So game week 22 will be quite far away. Lots of you here. I saw someone was saying they were watching from Canada, where it was, I think it was Jammer, said it's minus 37. And then Dragonloat popped up and says it was minus 50 in northern Norway last week. So I don't know if Dragonloat is there. If so, it's going to be very cold. I can't even imagine that cold, although it's pretty cold in my room at the moment. Okay, yeah, everyone can hear us and see us. Let's move on. Burnley against Luton.
Yeah.
That's happening tonight. So the deadline is soon, in an hour or two. Let's go with the home side first with Burnley. Now, I understand that Vincent Kompany was doing a bit of PR, or rather throwing a PR person under the bus, as he called it. So, yeah, what was going on there?
He was, yeah, the Burnley head of media who apparently instructed him before the press conference not to tell anybody about injuries. So Kompany, he did that and didn't tell us anything about names that we might actually be relying on this week. Charlie Taylor, for example, will be a lot of people's bench fodder defender who might want to play him, but we didn't get anything from him. I'll tell you what he said. Simon Crabtree, who's head of Burnley media, he said, I'm going to throw Crabbers under the bus, and he advised me and said, today we say nothing about injuries. I will say nothing, I will follow his advice, and I'd rather do that than lie. So we're going off previous updates on the three flagged players. Jordan Bayer missed out with a knock in the FA Cup, and Kompany previously said he was hopeful of getting him back. Charlie Taylor came off with a shoulder problem, and Kompany said that's more chronic than acute, so I'm guessing that's like a recurring thing. And then Lyle Foster came off in a little bit of pain again in that FA Cup match last Friday with, I think, a foot injury. So that's all we've got to go off. Okay. Very little. The only hope is that you get some sort of leak tonight. Outside of that, Sander Berger is back from a ban. Kolyoshu's out long term, and then Ekdal's been missing in recent weeks with an injury. But not been much.
Okay, right, yeah. Meanwhile, with Luton, a bit more forthcoming, are they?
Yeah, he is, Rob Edwards. He's one of my favourites. He told me something I didn't know, which was that Jacob Brown is suspended. So if you look on the Premier League site and on FPL, he's shown us 4 yellow cards, but apparently he got booked when he was at Stoke, first game of the season in the Championship, and that counts towards your total. So he is suspended for yellow card accumulation. Kabori's off to the AFCON as well. That's one of many mentions of that tournament you'll hear in this video.
Okay.
He's gone. Nakamba's still out. Lockyer's still out. Carlton Morris is fine after cramp last weekend. And we didn't get an update on Potts and Berg, but they're both near in return.
Okay, rightio. Obviously, while we setting up this stream as well, the double game week news has been announced as well, which we ought to mention because it involves Man City and Brentford. I understand it was sort of announced on the Brentford website and then swiftly taken down. And I understand it's now been confirmed that we do have a double game week in 25. So Man City assets, Brentford assets, to a lesser extent Brentford assets, because their double is against City and Liverpool, but you never know. So we do have some news there. So I'm sure there'll be stuff on Fantasy Football Scout about strategy around that and players to get And I know that I have already done a watch list video, which is based on our watch list on Fantasy Football Scout. And I obviously thought that there could be a double game week. So that was recorded before the announcement, but with the double game week in mind. And therefore, I do talk about Ivan Toney, and I do talk about Man City players a lot, and particularly in their midfield. But yeah, just thought we'd mention that. Let's move on. Chelsea against Fulham. I guess it is a derby. I never think of it as that, but it is, and I don't know how big the rivalry is between Chelsea and Fulham, but
I don't think Fulham have got big rivalries with anybody, and it's the most. I've been there multiple times. The only club I know have got a neutral zone in the ground where you can just sit and have a picnic and chat with friends and things like that. It's very, very genteel, that club. So yeah, they have been talking about this actually. Silva was talking about this today in his presser. But I'll start with Chelsea because they are the home side. Mostly good news, I think, because Chilwell's back. Buddy Shield's back as well.
Yep.
Chukwuemeka's in training. He'll be assessed before kick-off, but 3 possible returnees there. Chalobah's also not too far away. He's back in training. The one with the bad news is Nkunku, who had come back from injury, a long-term layoff, and then has got, I think it's a hip problem now.
Okay.
Hasn't been able to train in 10 days, Pochettino said, so he's now out of this one. On top of that, they've also got Lavia, Ugachukwu, James, Cucurella, Sanchez, Fafana, and Nicholas Jackson's away to Africa as well for the African Cup of Nations. Sanchez, a line on him, in case you're a Petrovic owner, he's going to attempt to do some running in the coming days to see how his knee holds out against the stress. It sounds pretty positive that he might not need surgery, so he might be back sooner rather than later.
And passing as well, he can practice that.
Yes.
One of the reasons he left Brighton, because he didn't practice enough. Fulham, how are they set up?
Pretty good, yeah. They've got very little in the way of injuries. Adama Traore is the only one. Harrison Reed should be fine. He was unwell prior to that Liverpool game and we actually played. And although Silva said he's not quite perfect yet, he should still be fine. Again, 3 players in international duty, all of them in Africa. Ballatore, Iwobi and Bassi.
Okay. In the live chat, Jamie, I presume is a Chelsea fan, said Fulham dislike us, but we are indifferent to them, he says. He cares, Chelsea fans care about Spurs, Arsenal, West Ham, much to the chagrin of Fulham and QPR. I remember when I used to work in an office in Hammersmith, and it was going into the meeting room very high up there and looking around and being amazed at the time that I could see Chelsea's ground, Fulham's ground and QPR's ground all within spitting distance of each other, but apparently there is no spitting there.
From having stood in Loftus Road myself, you've probably got a better view of the action from your office in Hammersmith, and you did actually stand on the ground.
Oh right.
Having stood behind several pillars before in QPR.
Oh right, yeah. I've never actually been there, just seen it from a distance. But yes. Anyway, let's move on. Newcastle against Man City. Let's go with the away side first, because massive news for us, as somehow we've still got Haaland. You have still got Haaland in your side, haven't you?
No, that was my strategy originally to keep him throughout this period, and then something changed, and I got Alvarez in.
Just me, who still got him.
Just the last man standing. Bad news for you, Joe, as you know aware now. Haaland's not going to be back for this one. There had been lots of images of him on the grass, but what exactly was he doing on the grass? It sounds like light training so far. He hasn't been with the team. It certainly wasn't yesterday. Sky Sports had the cameras there and he wasn't training then. So he remains out of contention. Not much of an update from Pep in the broadcast section. All he said was he's out. Same with John Stones. Jack Grealish has been sick. He was absent yesterday from training, but he's hopeful that he could be back today. Okay. Nothing on Akanji, who he limped off against Huddersfield last weekend, was absent from pitches yesterday, but nothing mentioned from Pep. Often he does this. He just forgets to mention the player's name and they might actually be injured. One other line to note on De Bruyne, who the player himself even said he wasn't going to start. He didn't think he was going to start, but Pep thinks he's fine to start. This is what he said today. He says he feels really good and dynamic. He's better than the training sessions before the Huddersfield game. So he is saying he's in a position to start, but he still might not actually do it, because he then went on to say after this we've got the warm weather camp in Abu Dhabi, and that'll help him for the months ahead. So it may be that that he sort of errs on the side of caution, but he's seeing there. He's introducing an element of doubt, which we didn't think there was before.
Okay. Yeah. With Haaland as well as an owner, obviously I've got to be optimistic. This warm weather camp sounds good for him to actually. I will be looking for training pictures of him actually with the team, and
Yeah.
very hopeful because he's got Burnley in game week 22 at home, and so many will be eyeing him up for the captaincy that time. So a lot of news is needed because a lot of people want to get him in, obviously, for that. Okay. Anything else from Man City before I move on?
I
Oh,
don't think so.
Newcastle.
Jim.
We missed.
Newcastle,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, we had one bit of news this morning, and that's Joe Linton is out.
Okay.
6 weeks as a minimum. So again, another injury for Newcastle. Lots of updates on the others. None of them are going to be back this weekend. But Wilson, Barnes, and Murphy, they're closing in. I think Barnes still got a little bit left. He's doing ball work now, but not in training. Murphy's in non-contact training, so he's probably the closest.
Okay.
Willock and Anderson, they're not expected back anytime soon. Pope's long term as well, and of course Tonali's banned. So yeah, they seem to have had double figures for injuries for ages, and it never seems to abate.
Okay, let's move on to Everton against Aston Villa. Aston Villa news, the tweet just came in about a minute before we went on, so I managed to quickly get a screen grab of that and bung it on here. So let's go with Everton first then. Decore could be back, which will be handy if you're a big fan of surprise midfield goals.
Yeah, he's been banging them in, hasn't he, ever since Dyche arrived, actually, at the back end of last season. Got some great underlying stats as well. Dyche was hopeful that he's going to be available this weekend. Says I think he's trained well. Not so good news on Neale, although again relatively positive because they were fearing, I think, a longer term layoff. He isn't going to be involved in this one, or very unlikely, but he's avoided serious damage. So I guess some silver lining there. Ashley Young's on the grass again, probably not ready enough for this one. Gear's on international duty. Dele Alli's out. Calvert-Lewin is available, however. He was red carded against Palace, but being rescinded.
Okay, good stuff. And as for Aston Villa, this news that just came in, so just in the nick of time.
Yep. Pau, that's not my noise of the news coming in. That is the name of the player. Pau Torres, he's rejoined training this week. It's been this niggly ankle problem he's had for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks now. He came back, didn't he, as a sub, and then he was out again. But at least he is back in training this week. So is Tielemans as well. So is Robin Olsen, the backup goalie. And Emery was saying this afternoon that they've got chances of being involved. So we'll see if Pau Torres gets back in the start lineup after that spell out. Digne, who actually was pictured in training this week, is still out. That's probably going to be game week 22, I think, for him. And then Mings and Wendy long term, and Traore is away on international duty.
Okay, before we move on to the last fixture that we have got news for, just what I did say in the live chat, I was chatting to them earlier that I would say what moves I've made as well. And so Sakan in the live chat has sort of preempted one of those. He said, did Joe get a Stupinan in? Yes, I did. I've taken my first hit of the season. I'm going to keep Haaland and Salah on my bench. I'm going for the world record of the most expensive bench known to mankind. And so I've removed the non-playing Lamptey for a Stupinan, which is a good upgrade, I think, because Stupinan plays for a start. And I've also removed Son, who doesn't play at the moment because he's in Asia, in the Asia Cup. I've moved him for Foden. So that's the moves I made. First hit of the season. Hopefully not the first of many, but, sometimes you've got to make some hits. And I'm fielding a 4-4-2 for, I think, the first time this season. So I'll be very exciting there for me. Manchester United, Tottenham is the last that we have some definitive news on.
Yeah.
Now, big news at Manchester United. They appear to have half a team back.
They do, yeah. And some of these will come into the starting 11. Some of them might still be short of fitness, but they'll be in the squad at least. So Luke Shaw, Casemiro, Alessandro Martinez, all back in training this week. Set to be involved. Shorter term absences, so Ericsson, Diallo, and Anthony were all missing on Monday. They're fine as well. Malacia, Mount, they're nearing returns, but it might be a little bit longer for them. Maguire, I think, was penciled in for a January return as well. Lindelof, I think, probably a couple of weeks away. So they've got a lot of players either back or about to be back. So Ten Hag hasn't got that excuse anymore about injuries. They have still got Martial out with, I think this is illness. And Amrabat's away on international duty now, but a lot rosier now, the Man United team news.
Okay, and as for Spurs as well, so they've got a few new recruits,
Yeah.
and obviously a lengthy injury list as they tend to have done for the most of this season.
Yeah, they've added three names. Not none of them are big sort of fantasy players, but Ben Davies, Lo Celso, and Dean Scarlett, they're all added to the injury list. Following the FA Cup, they're all out. And of course, Son is on international duty now, along with Basuma and Sarr. And Madison, Solomon, Perisic, Village, and Whiteman, they're still out. Romero is the one who's joined training or rejoined training. Again, though, it might come a bit too soon for him. Postecoglou was saying this afternoon, might be a bit quick.
Okay.
But he's returned earlier than what they said he would anyway, so he should be in line for game week 22. They will have their new signings in the squad as well, so Dragusan and Timo Werner should be involved.
Okay. Lots of questions in the live chat about press conferences that haven't happened. They're not happening until next week. That is because we're in a split game week. Half the fixtures are taking place next week. Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Brentford against Nottingham Forest, Sheffield United against West Ham, Bournemouth against Liverpool, Brighton against Wolves. We will not get any press conferences ahead of the Game Week 21. You're going to go into those blind, I'm afraid, there. Also, welcome Delia in the live chat. Sorry, I accidentally mispronounced your name. Delia in the live chat there saying catching this live for the first time. Welcome. She's also ticked off Penguin Lover in the live chat, who has asked repeatedly the same question: should I captain Foden or Palmer? None of us know. They're both good options. How about that? But have a look at Hibbo's captaincy article on Fantasy Football Scout. That might give you some more information there. Both good options, though. Okay, let's have a look at the roundup. So this is the roundup of what we've got so far. And I have put a couple of players in that we have had some information of that are likely or looking very doubts or out. Sorry, yeah.
Do you want me to just go through each club? Because I have got an article on the site about all the 10 clubs, what we know.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
So, yeah, I did this yesterday. So, with the caveat, a lot could change between now and the press conferences next week. So, yeah, I'll go in order of hierarchy as I did yesterday. So, Liverpool first. Mm-hmm. Alexander-Arnold is expected to be out for this one. He was ruled out for 3 weeks by Pep Linders, the assistant boss at Liverpool. And that was on Tuesday, I think, when that press conference was. So it sounds like he's going to miss game week 21, potentially back for 22. Robertson, Simicas, Thiago, could be back in February. Bendo and Jordan Matt are the long-term ones. Salah and Endo, of course, are off on international duty.
Okay.
Szoboszlai is the one who could be back. He's been back and running on the grass after, I think, ahead of that Fulham game. So given the length between the matches, that he could well be back. West Ham, Jared Bowen is, of course, the main one from an FPL perspective. He had an ankle injury against Bristol City last Sunday. There's been wild sort of speculation. None of it's come from West Ham, of course, no concrete updates, but various papers, the Standard, the Athletic, have speculated on how long he may be out. Initially, it sounded like possibly a month or more. Now, the consensus seems to be 2 or 3 weeks. So, obviously, a doubt for game week 21, but potentially back thereafter. Again, this is nothing official from West Ham. Paqueta is out. That's a more serious one. Could be out for a couple of months with a calf injury. And then Mavropanos and Kufal also picked up knocks in that FA Cup game. Again, we're not sure how serious they are. Kudus and Aguirre, they're away at the African Cup of Nations, and Antonio's had a setback. Arsenal, Jesus and Vieira were spotted in training on Thursday, actually. They're in Dubai at the moment, so they're on their winter break already. So they were cited. No sign of Zinchenko or Partey, but Zinchenko was said to be progressing well ahead of the Liverpool game. So maybe he could be back. They won't get Timber back for a while, although he is on the grass. And Tomiyasu and El Neni again on international duty. Brentford, Tony will be back. He's available for selection from January 17th. So he'll not play in the FA Cup replay next Tuesday, but he will be back for 21.
Yep.
Ben Mee's available as well. He was banned. Baptiste and De Silva are fit. Christopher Ayew had been penciled in for this game, so he could be back. They'll still be without Mbomo, Hickey, Sharda, Henry, and then their international contingent, which is Visser, Onyeka, Goros, and Kim. And Nogard's going to have a heel injury assessed as well. Bournemouth, there's quite a lot of headlines actually here from the Solanke, for example, wasn't risked for the cup win over QPR last weekend. He wasn't 100% for the game, according to Iraola. he'd come off with a knock against Spurs, but it sounded more rested, like precautionary than serious. Kirkes, Kelly, and Adams, we think, are some way off a return. Traore's still got malaria. Fredericks hasn't featured all season. Senesi's going to be banned, so that's good news for Liverpool. And Dango Ouattara and Semenyo are off on international duty as well. So a lot of decimated squads here. Palace, another headline news here. Elise was getting traction in the fantasy world. No timeline from Palace yet. He's recovering from a hamstring injury. Again, media speculation says about a month or most of January. So again, that would render him a big doubt for Game Week 21. IU's gone to Africa Cup of Nations, and then they've got Johnson, Decore, Holden, Raksaki, Ferguson, and Wardle flagged as well. Your boys, Brighton. I don't think I expect anyone back apart from maybe Ego. Again, that he might be more seriously injured than the yellow flag suggests. I think he had Achilles problem, so we don't know the severity of it, but he could be out still. Definitely out are Adingra and Mitoma, who are away on national duty and injured simultaneously.
Although I did see some pictures of Mitoma sort of on the training pitch. So
yeah, I mean,
could be.
They were they were kind of earmarking him a return for the end of January, I think, mid to late January. So he's probably getting towards that point. He'll be back on the grass, so he should be fine by the time he comes home. Beltman, Lamptey, March, Fatian, and Ciso there, I think, a bit longer term.
Okay, I should see. Also, I saw a picture of a March at the training ground or within the complex. There's absolutely no way he's near full training or anything like that. So, but it's good to see him back as sort of the start of a long process of recovery.
You forget he's there. Sorry, March. He was a bit of a hero last year in FPL world. Wolves, minor issues from the cup game. Bentley, Bueno, and Dawson all missed out, but Neale's expecting them all back. Gomez is banned, straight red card. Johnny's not being considered. They've lost four players to international duty as well. Ait Nori, Traore, Huang, and Justin Hubner. And then Lamine has been absent recently on compassionate grounds because of his father's passed away, but he should be back. Speaking of AFCON, Forest, they're the worst hit side. They've lost 6 players. Aurier, Sangare, Bolly, Aina, Niakate, and Kouyaté, they're all off to the Ivory Coast. Alanga missed the Blackpool game with a knock. Santo couldn't offer us much on that. Again, he's speaking next week, so we're none the wiser. Felipe, Awani, and Origi are also flagged. And finally, Sheffield United, who no one will care about, but Lerucci and Ben Slimani, they're off to AFCON. Basham, Egan, and Jefferson, we think, are still out. Davies is closer to a return. One last line from Wilder. He said ahead of last weekend's game against Gillingham that he wouldn't risk certain players that were struggling. And then the players who missed out were Baldock, Bogle, Ahmed Hodzic, and Trusty. So some managers might own some of those players. But I think, again, that was precautionary omissions and he didn't want to risk them for Game Week 21. Okay,
so plenty to catch up on. And so, yeah, it's good to get that latest news there. Obviously, do keep checking Fantasy Football Scouts team news pages, also on social media as well. Just to quickly round up what we've spoken about today from the press conferences. Fit to play, we got Morris at Luton, Chilwell, Badashila, Casemiro, Shaw, Martinez, Anthony, Ericsson, all fit to play. Whether they do or not is another matter, but Manchester United, Decore should be back for Everton. Questionable though, these Burnley players, don't know. Taylor, Bayer, Foster, the PR guy there, told Vincent Kompany not to tell us. There we go. So we will not know. Grealish illness could keep him out. Reed is unwell. Major doubts, as Neil's just said, about Bowen with his ankle. Romero, his hamstring issues likely to keep him out for Spurs. And definitely out, as Neil mentioned there, Alexander-Arnold could be back as soon as Game Week 22 though. So possibly a player to bench. Nkunku, problem with his hip. Joe Ellington has got a thigh problem at Newcastle. Lo Celso, muscle problems there. Davis, hamstring. So Spurs injury list growing again. Haaland is definitely out. Well, according to Pep. I still think he's going to turn up somehow, but I think he is definitely out. Stones is out as well, and McNeil is out with an ankle problem for Everton. So I think we've got most there, and we've also got a sneak preview of some of the press conferences that might happen during the week ahead of next weekend's fixtures. Neil, thanks so much for your time. Really useful as ever to get those latest there. Good luck with the game week. Good luck everyone in the live chat and those listening and watching with your game weeks as well. Do press that like button. It helps us out if you've liked it, even if you haven't. And also do press subscribe so you can keep up to date with all our latest videos and podcasts. And check out fantasyfootballscout.co.uk for all the latest members articles, members gadgets and tools and all those things to help you go up your mini leagues. Thanks a lot for your time. Take care. See you soon.
Bye bye.